network neutrality or net neutrality is back in the news. The last time we might have heard about it was when Meta, earlier known as Facebook, had pushed for its internet service called Free Basic in the country in 2016. It was the year when the Telecom Regulatory Authority of India, or TRAI, had barred service providers from offering or charging discriminatory tariffs for data services purely on the basis of content. Soon, Facebook snapped Internet Service for India. Some experts had described it as digital colonialism, while alleging that it was a little web that turned the user into a passive consumer of mostly Western corporate content. Now, net neutrality is in the news for a different reason. Telecommunications giants such as Bharti Airtel, Reliance Jio Infocom, and VI have once again urged the government to allow them to charge some internet-based intermediaries like Netflix, Amazon Prime, WhatsApp. They argued that these apps should pay telcos network cost based on the tariff they generate. This request stems from the increased data consumption attributed to the usage of these applications, which in turn exerts additional stress on their network infrastructure. This development has triggered concern, with some considering it as a potential threat to net neutrality. In response, stakeholders have revived the Save the Internet campaign, urging people to participate by writing to TRAI in defense of net neutrality.
One size is not going to fit all, or if you look at just one side of the debate, would not work. Or if you look at it from the perspective of just the OTT players or the telecom players, that's not going to be the right approach, where they just pass on the charges on to the consumers. So today all of them are charging, and the consumer is actually paying those charges. But I think if there has to be a relook at that, probably the consumer perspective has to be taken into consideration as well. And certain amount of charges should ideally be borne by both the telecom as well as the OTT players, while a certain charge can still be passed on to the consumer.
Reliance Jio, in its submission, claimed that OTT players consume humongous amount of bandwidth, which puts tremendous pressure on the network infrastructure established by the telecom service providers or TSPs without contributing an iota to this cost. At the same time, OTT players gain massive direct-indirect benefits. Thus, it would be all the more fitting that both communication and other OTT players contribute towards the cost of this infrastructure development through direct compensation to TSPs. Vodafone Idea said there is a need that OTT players should contribute towards investment in the network. A policy framework should be prescribed on fair share contribution from the large OTT players to TSPs towards the telecom networks.
Over-the-top OTT, which has started riding on a network without paying any either rental or tariff or in whatever form. They don't pay anything, they don't contribute anything. And they run on top of a network and they reach millions of subscribers, earn huge amount of revenues by ad revenues and subscriptions, and they don't pay for upkeep of the network. Please understand, the networks are an essential part of OTT offering. Without a telecom network, they cannot reach their subscribers. So it is but logical that they should also contribute to building up of that networks of the requisite quality. Their entire earning depends on these networks, and yet they don't want to contribute anything on these networks. The TSPs are forced to build networks and earn minuscule revenues from B2C, because B2C, in India the tariffs are very low, and the amount of money that is put into building these networks is not recoverable by only B2C networks.
Globally, the EU and some countries have started to revise frameworks to regulate these services at par with communication services being provided by telecom service providers. Indian telecom companies are following trends that want internet companies to pay them a network fee based on the traffic they generate, turnover threshold, number of users, and so on. Zerodha co-founder and Chief Executive Officer Nitin Kamath took to X to share his views over the net neutrality debate. He said, "Recently, there have been talks of revisiting the idea of net neutrality in India. We enjoy some of the strongest net neutrality rules in the world, ensuring a fair and level playing field for everyone to access and innovate on the internet, no matter how big and small."
Net neutrality means that you have to offer the same service to the same segment of people at the same cost, isn't it? That is what I understand of net neutrality, and that's the paper says. We are not increasing the burden, or we are not differentiating between B2C subscribers. They will continue to be net neutral the way they are. As far as B2B is concerned, that becomes a separate segment. There also, we are not saying that we will charge differentiated rates from different companies. So they will also be net neutral. So where are we making a deviation from net neutrality? As TSPs, we are committed to adhere to the principle of net neutrality as enunciated by the government.
If net neutrality is revisited, then a lot of larger internet service providers or telecom service providers, as we know them, will sort of play cahoots with larger OTT players, and they will be able to dominate the customer mobile or a television screen. Because only the larger OTT players will be able to pay the fees which the telecom service providers will be charging them, and only then they will be available. It will lead to discouragement of innovation. It will lead to reduction in choice. It will lead to taking away powers from the hand of consumers and giving it back to the service providers, particularly the telecom service providers and the large OTT players, which will be against the spirit of internet, because internet does not discriminate.
According to reports, the government is unlikely to change its earlier stance on net neutrality. It may ask both the service layer apps as well as telecom companies to work together and find a solution to this issue.
If you like this video, share it and subscribe to Business Standard. For more news, views and insights, log on to www.business-standard.com. Do also follow us on YouTube, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, Telegram and LinkedIn.
She's working her way to the corner office. Business Standard.